Hello, everyone. We'll start in just 30 seconds, letting people in. Okay, so welcome to this urgent and action-oriented dialogue, Greening Education in Europe, Empowering Change for Sustainable and Resilient Future. I'm Pramod Kumar Sharma, Senior Director of Education at the Foundation for Environmental Education and co-coordinator for the Greening Schools pillar under the Greening Education Partnership. We are here at the critical juncture. Europe is accelerating its green transition, but let's be clear, there is no successful transition, no resilient future without education at the center. Education must not simply adapt to change, it must drive it. And that is why today's conversation is not just timely, it is essential. Today, in collaboration with European Commission and UNESCO, we will explore the concrete action, bold policies, and real partnership needed to embed sustainability across Europeans' education system. Our speakers represent the leading edge of policy, research, and practice in learning for sustainability. Over the next 90 minutes, we will move beyond rhetoric. We will hear about Europe's progress and persistent gaps, practical experiences from across the continent, and the key challenges we must collectively tackle. You will also have a chance to put your questions in the question button, as you see on the bottom part of your Zoom. I urge everyone here, policymakers, educators, and partners, not to be passive listeners, but challenge what you are hearing, what you're getting. Think critically. What about the things that we must change in your own context and in the European context? Use today's dialogues as a catalyst for real transformation, not just for another tick on your calendar. Let's start get together. And it's my pleasure to invite our first speaker, Monica. She is head of unit schools and multilingualism, Director General for Education, Youth, Sports and Cultural, European Commission. The unit contributes to the building of European education area both via policy and program. Monica has worked in Brussels since 2003 for over 25 years, and she joined the European Commission in 2003 and has worked both on programmatic implementation and also policy development in education, training, employment, and social inclusion. The floor is yours, Monica.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the floor and for the screen. And very warm welcome also from my side. Yes, at the European Union, we have set ambitious climate targets. It's about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, it's about expanding renewable energy and promoting sustainable development across all sectors. But reaching these goals requires more than just policy and technology. It requires people who are informed, skilled, empowered to take action. And from early childhood education and care to adult learning, education plays a crucial role when it comes to preparing people with the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values to navigate an increasingly complex and challenging world. So this is the cornerstone of our work, and I'm very happy to discuss this further today with you at this webinar. The green transition is transforming our economies and our societies with profound changes in technology, production, services, and also consumption. And to thrive in a low carbon economy, Europe needs a workforce that has the appropriate green skills. And yet, current skills shortages pose a problem, and it's a significant problem, and I would also say a significant barrier. Many young people want to contribute to a sustainable future, but don't feel prepared. They lack both foundational skills and also the specialized knowledge. And this is where the European Commission's most recent policy initiative, the Union of Skills, comes in. It recognizes that building a sustainable future requires a workforce that is ready for the challenges and the opportunities ahead. That means strengthening basic skills, offering targeted upskilling and reskilling in the critical sectors that are critical for the green transition. We are advancing this effort through two key initiatives, two key strategic documents. Firstly, the Action Plan on Basic Skills, which targets foundational skills, ensuring that all pupils or students acquire the necessary building blocks for climate-specific education. The basic skills, we have 5 of them, literacy, numeracy, science, digital, and citizenship skills. They are foundational also to effective climate and sustainability education. For example, when it comes to literacy, it is literacy that enables learners to access, understand, and critically assess information about environmental issues. When it comes to numeracy, it is numeracy that supports the interpretation of data, such as climate data or carbon footprint, or help learners make informed decisions. And when we think about the fifth basic skill, the citizenship skills, they are the ones that foster a sense of responsibility and agency. Climate issues can also provide real-world context to teach basic skills, making learning also more relevant and impactful. The second policy document, policy initiative, is the STEM Education Strategic Plan, which aims to boost outcomes in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, fields again that are essential when it comes to developing the innovation and the resilience needed to respond to the climate crisis. At the same time, climate change is already affecting our education and training systems. According to the European Environmental Agency, nearly half of Europe's urban schools are exposed to urban heat island effects, and also 1 in 10 is at risk of flooding. Rising temperatures and most frequent extreme weather events are also disrupting schooling, leading to school closures and significant learning losses as a consequence. So to address this challenge, the Preparedness Union strategy, which is another strategy that has been recently adopted by the Commission, highlights integrating preparedness into school curricula and training for teachers and staff. Also because schools must not only teach about climate resilience, but they also must practice it. And of course, we know from research that education builds on resilience. Communities with high levels of education are better prepared for disasters, respond more effectively, and recover more quickly. Investing in education is therefore not only about supporting the green transition, it is also about building stronger, safer, and more equitable societies. In a moment, my colleagues will also take the floor, and my colleague Sophia will present the key insights from the 2024 Education and Training Monitor, which is a key flagship publication of our Directorate General. And this year, it included a special focus on learning for sustainability. And then my colleague Deirdre will speak about our policy efforts and funding mechanism to support learning for sustainability across Europe. And afterwards, we will hear from countries across the EU who are putting this also into practice, sharing concrete strategies to embed sustainability into education. But before we continue and before I pass the floor and the screen, I want to close by returning to what brings us together today, and this is the partnership. We are facing a triple planetary crisis. We face climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. And this is too complex and too interconnected for just one institution, one sector, or one country to tackle it effectively. So this is why the Greening Education Partnership matters so much. It connects governments, education systems, civil society, and international organizations. So we can learn from each other, scale up what works, and move together faster. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for that opening remarks. And I'm really pleased that you address the issue on this planetary crisis impacting education, particularly climate change and need for preparedness. Climate change impacts are there, it's not in future, and we are seeing that all around the world here. And also connecting it to the STEM education, because that's where it has to be situated, sustainability education and the real world content. And then people are at the center of this transition, and thank you for re-emphasizing that. And we now move to Julia Heiss. Julia is the Chief of Section for Education for Sustainable Development in UNESCO's education sector. She is a social anthropologist for education planner by training, and she brings over 25 years of experience in designing and implementing education programs. In the past, she had held various roles in UNESCO at regional office in Kenya, Zimbabwe, as well as headquarters in Paris, and now leading Greening Education Partnership that I feel is one of the important tool to galvanize the role of ESD in achieving sustainable development goals. And over to you, Julia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And thank you, Monica, also for promoting the Greening Education Partnership, so nicely summarizing its purpose. I just wanted to make sure that the PowerPoint presentation is with you. I think I just sent it to you, Raquel. Yes. And I'll give you a little bit of an overview on the Greening Education Partnership and what are the achievements so far and what are the upcoming plans. Maybe starting off saying that we frame greening education, climate change education within education for sustainable development, a movement that UNESCO led for over 2 decades by now, which has as a purpose to empower learners at all ages with the knowledge, the skills, values that are needed to drive meaningful actions towards sustainable development. And there are 2 particular aspects within this broader program. One is that we link it closely to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and have very nice documents that show how education can be not a solution, but at least a contribution to achieving all of the 17 goals. ESD clearly also considers itself as a transformative effort, so that's important to say as well. If you can go 2 slides further already, Rachel. That was ESD. Yes. So why acting on climate change is important? Despite the urgency of the climate crisis, education systems are not really keeping up. They are on the one hand impacted by climate change, and there are really alarming numbers on that. And on the other hand, they can also be part of the solution to climate change, as we believe. And UNESCO had undertaken some research that revealed, for example, that nearly half of the national curricula do not even mention climate change. That was already in 2021. We are about to do a new review and hope that that picture has changed quite a bit since then, that 70% of young people say that they cannot clearly explain what climate change is, and that climate financing, and especially in the current context, definitely is not a priority, which we dearly regret, and not only climate financing, but financing that also goes specifically to the education sector, which has always been very low. Next slide. So in response to that context, in 2022, out of the big UN Transformative Summit, this initiative, the Greening Education Partnership, was launched to respond to that dual challenges of climate change and the transformation of education. The main purpose was, as Monica said already, is to bring together UN agencies, NGOs, education actors, to collaborate, to coordinate the work, to find the common languages, to set common goals around 4 pillars. You see them here: greening schools, greening curricula, greening teacher education, and community engagements are the 4 pillars. Next slide. And so far, the partnership has really grown in only 2 years to a huge group of 97 members, 97 member states, and 1,700 partner organizations. Talking about the EU, since this is our forum here, the member state participation is not that big, we think. So here a plea to encourage other countries to join us, which is a very, very easy thing to do. We have so far 13 EU countries, including, for example, France, Spain, Finland, and several others. And one of the advantages, not only to be part of that forum and learn also from all the other actors of the JEP, is that you're on our screen, because we are, and you will see that a little bit later, we are also monitoring greening education and give feedback to countries in that regard. Next slide. As one of the outputs, we published last year 2 guiding tools, one on greening school quality standards and the second one on greening curriculum. The tools are translated in several languages and are absolute bestsellers. I hope that all our colleagues in the Greening Education Partnership can confirm that as well. For those first two guidance tools, we do have global benchmarks or global indicators. What we would like to aim by all collectively by 2030 is that 50% of the schools are aligned with the green school standards and that 90% of curricula are integrating climate change education. Upcoming are two schools where you don't see the cover yet. They are in development. One on the teacher capacity is a teacher capacity building tool, and the second one, a greening community guidance. We hope that we will launch at least one of them by the next COP. Just a few words on the next slide, the Green School Quality Standard. So it takes what we call a whole school approach, covering governance of schools, teaching, looking at school facilities, making them climate smart, and promoting the inclusion of and engagement of community in learning. Each school that wants to qualify as a green school must adopt at least 1/3 of the recommended actions in each of those 4 dimensions I just mentioned. And so far, we have nearly 80,000 green schools in 85 countries. We hope that number is going to go up, and we have something to announce again at the next COP in Brazil. Next slide. Another 2-3 words on the green curriculum standards. So they are they promote the integration of climate change in the curriculum in a very holistic approach. It's not just, first of all, around the 3 pillars of sustainable development, but then also looking at all dimensions of learning, cognitive, social, emotional, and behavioral. And as you see, in terms of subject areas, it isn't climate change in our context is not regarded as a purely science subject, but also looks at social and ethical dimensions, including climate justice, post-carbon economies, sustainable lifestyles, among others. So it's a very comprehensive tool, and we see its value now very much that we are rolling it out in countries at the moment. Next slide. An ongoing project, and I mentioned that quickly, is that we really would like, in a more systematic way and together with the entire partnership, monitor progress on greening. And we are about to develop what we call Global Greening Dashboard in partnership with ISESCO to visualize global and national data across the 4 action pillars. We have and will still launch an open call for submission of data among partners. And again, COP, everything is happening at the COP. We hope that we launch a first version of it. It should help us to promote knowledge. It should help us to store education-related climate content. It's not only a dashboard for data, but it's also a dashboard for resources, and hopefully going to be useful for the entire community. Just to say a few words, because I was scoring the European partners saying that we feel that more of you could join the JEP. There are, of course, fantastic initiatives going on in Europe. Just to mention a few of them, in Finland. Finland has the Climate University in 18 universities that are offering open online sustainability courses. The Hungary Eco School Network, which is a national self-evaluation and award system based on ESD. Ireland, of course, always one of our flagships, and ESD in general has included ESD and greening in teacher standards. And Spain has an environmental education action plan, just to mention a few of them. Looking forward to the discussion, and thank you very much. Over to you, Pramod.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you for highlighting the Greening Education Partnership, and also mentioning, I think a lot is happening in the European Union, but it's not reflected in the JEP commitment as such. Only 13 countries have joined the Greening Education Partnership, and there is an opportunity here with Greening Education Partnership, seeing over 1,200 partners globally to galvanize the progress on the pillar 1. And also, I think the curriculum and the teacher training is well done, but is it the commitment that we need on the greening school? And then this fantastic progress in terms of 80,000 schools globally who are already showing action. And as we see, JEP is a comprehensive tool. So after an overview of why we need JEP or sustainability education, how JEP is galvanizing it and bringing many efforts together that are happening at the global level. Let's take a stock change check of what's happening in Europe. And European Union came out with a monitoring and progress on learning for sustainability in the training and education and training monitor report of 2024, which was released in December. And presenting the report is Sophia. She is part of the Green Education team at the Director General of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture of European Commission. Over to you, Sophia.
Yes, thank you. Are you able to see my screen?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. And I'll be talking to you about the Education and Training Monitor 2024 edition. And it's nice to be following up from Julia as well, talking a bit about monitoring green education now specifically within these EU member states. So yeah, what is the Education and Training Monitor? Monica already mentioned it, but it is an annual report on how EU education systems are progressing towards specific EU level targets that were set. So, for example, there's targets on participation in early childhood education, which, for example, would be at least 96% by 2030. And we're currently around 93%, I think, at EU level. And then there's also early school leaving that should be below 9% by 2030, currently around 9.5%. So these are kind of the targets, and it looks at how it's been progressing, and it's existed since 2012 and helps to kind of shape dialogue, but also peer learning between the different member states. And there's different themes for each year. And then the last year, though 2024, we've had the theme on learning for sustainability. And so the monitor consists of three parts. So first we have a comparative report where all the education systems and the progress is being compared. Then we have 27 country reports, which are available in English as well as the respective national language. And here you can find more in-depth information for the specific member state. And then lastly, there's an online monitor toolbox with the key indicators and sources available. So this is kind of what the website looks like. And we're going to look at some of the key findings from the comparative report now. So the first one I wanted to discuss was on sustainability knowledge. So here you can see how much foundational knowledge about sustainability varies across EU countries. We see that it is highest in Denmark and actually lowest in Bulgaria. And we also have here a proxy for socioeconomic background, which is parental education attainment. And as you can see, the blue bars, that's high parental education attainment, while the purple bars is low and then yellow is medium. And you can see that it's strongly correlated. So the higher parental education attainment, the greater also the foundational knowledge about sustainability. And this gap is stronger in some countries, such as Slovakia or Slovenia, while in other countries it's not as pronounced, such as Italy or Croatia. Yes, let's move on to some of the other findings. So we also see that sustainability values don't necessarily equal action. So we see that a lot of students actually report embodying sustainability values. That's the blue bar we see here on the figure, while a lot less students report taking action for sustainability in their daily life. And those kind of actions, the most common ones were reducing use of electricity or reducing food waste. And so you clearly see this kind of behavior or attitude behavior gap that's also very prominent in environmental psychology, where we see that just raising awareness doesn't automatically lead to behavioral change. So that's something we really have to take into account, and we can see that this is happening across all countries in the EU that are part of this survey. Yes, and then we had also had a look at specific curricular and pedagogical activities, and here we see that actually all EU education systems include the topic of sustainability in their curricula, but to varying extents. And we often see it included in interdisciplinary ways, sometimes as part of citizenship education, and rarely as a separate subject. And less than 0.5% of schools actually report that their 8th grade students can take part in activities related to sustainability. And unfortunately, those are often more low impact activities such as recycling, while the ones that are less prevalent are the action oriented, more community engagement activities. Looking a bit further into the curriculum, we also looked at what type of competence areas are most prominent. And here you see valuing sustainability is the one that's most reflected, and such a bit more complex sustainability competences, such as future literacy, is actually what we see less in the curricula. And there's also some differences depending on education level, where you have in primary schools more promoting nature, while the collective action or political agency you see more in secondary education. So lastly, just quickly on teachers. Are teachers prepared? These findings I also find very interesting. They're consistent across the states we looked at, except for the Netherlands. But here we see that actually teachers report that they feel prepared to teach about sustainability, but then only about half of them actually received formal training in either their initial teacher education or continuous professional development. So there's a clear gap, and it kind of poses this bit of a worrying question if teachers are really prepared to teach the complexities of learning for sustainability in the classroom, and how we can better support that teacher capacity as well. Yes, so just quickly, so as I said, there's also these country reports where you can actually have a look and select your country you're interested in and get a much more in-depth information also on learning for sustainability. So all countries also have country-specific data on this in this edition. And just to mention a few, I think some of them were already mentioned, but we also have Estonia, which for over 20 years has already incorporated learning for sustainability into national curricula. Ireland is another forerunner. I think Julia already mentioned it. They're having a new climate action and sustainable development leaving certificate that's coming, leaving subject certificate. And Slovenia also making use of some of the EU funds of the Recovery and Resilience Facility to actually support pilots that look at integrating digital and sustainable development competences into study programs. Yes, and then the last part that you can look at is the monitor toolbox. Yes, and here you can filter either by theme or by country. So theme would be, for example, learning for sustainability, but it could also be teachers or early childhood education. And then if you do filter, for example, for learning for sustainability, you will get this kind of dashboard where you can find the different main indicators, and you can go into depth for the data you're interested in. You can download the data, you can learn more about the sources, and you can compare the data as well. So I encourage you to explore this further on the website, and maybe also see some more of the data and the key findings that I wasn't able to touch on in this presentation now. And I'll be handing over, thank you very much. I'll be handing over to my colleague, Deirdre, to tell you more about our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia, for that interesting presentation. Before we go into the next presentation of Deirdre, who is also part of the Green Education team at the DG Education, Youth, Sports and Culture, and as a policy officer at the School of Multilingualism. But I would like to highlight some of the things that you mentioned. I think the important aspect of the linkages of knowledge or values with family, and where I think JEP acknowledges that when it has a pillar 4 on greening communities as such, that the importance of lifelong learning and parents also, or the families also being included in this process. It's just not about children, and how family also impacts the learning and behaviors. And this long understanding or that we have from various researchers that knowledge doesn't lead to action and values, and action competencies is so just embedding in the curriculum and regular teaching is not enough, and we need programs, and that's the role of pillar 1, where we are getting children into action oriented project. But then the challenge also you highlighted in a way when you talked about the less progress on future literacy, because that's again, I think that's the challenge, because most of us are not able to anticipate the impacts that our actions are having when they are opaque or they are far away. In climate change, they are now happening as of now, but in many cases they are very abstract and happening in future. There's no cause and effect relationship that you can immediately see and difficult to see. But a lot is happening, and I'm just handing over to Deirdre to appraise on the different action that European Commission is taking to strengthen sustainability education.
Thank you so much, Pramod. So wonderful to be here today, and lovely to see so many of you join us from Europe and all around the world. So my name is Deirdre Hodson. I work with Sophia and with Monica at the European Commission. We're in the Education Department of the Commission, and we're working in school education. So I'm going to fill in, I suppose, a different part of the picture. Sophia talked about the data that we've gathered, our 2024 report, which focused on learning for sustainability. I'm going to zoom out a bit and talk a little bit around our policies, talk a little bit about our funding mechanisms as well through our Erasmus program. And I hope to share some resources which could be of interest and of use to you in your own context. So Raquel has a few slides that she's going to share now. Great, and we'll zoom through these fairly quickly. So next slide, please. So why learning for sustainability? I mean, we've heard from Monica, from our other speakers so far today, that protecting the environment is an issue that people care about. Unfortunately, we see more and more extreme weather patterns and the impacts of the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis. So a lot of our young people in the European Union are very worried, extremely worried about the climate crisis. And many of them feel that education and training need to do more to prepare them to tackle these huge challenges that we're facing. So people turn to education and training as a key sector, really, to help them understand and critically take action on the climate crisis. So next, please. And as we've heard before today, that it's not something out there in the future. It's really something that's already with us today. We see huge disruption to learning already. There's some pictures there of floods in Valencia and in Slovenia as well. So we have impacts and education being disrupted, unfortunately, all around the globe. So next, please. So Monica spoke briefly about the Union of Skills. That's a key policy initiative for the Commission that we're all working on right now. So this is about the green transition, the huge changes required to our economy, also societal impacts as well. So there's a need to develop awareness, understanding, and the skills we need to function in a more sustainable and circular fashion. So the impacts of the green and digital transition is also something that we're working on in education and training. Next slide, please. So I really like this slide. Some of you may be familiar with this picture from our colleagues in UNESCO. So I think schools have a tremendous opportunity to be really living labs or living laboratories for sustainability. In this picture, we see lots of learning taking place across the school site. Inside, outside the classroom, we have community groups involved, we have parents involved as well. We've got a school garden there. So I think within our schools, we have wonderful opportunities to not only learn about sustainability, so taking it out of the textbook, but really experiencing it as well. So the curriculum is vital, of course, but also the hidden curriculum. So what we see around us every day in school. So next, please. So next slide, please. Thank you. So we spoke about the EU's policy on learning for sustainability, and that was a policy document that we adopted in 2022. So what does that mean? When it comes to education in the EU, we don't have laws or directives. Every country is free to design and run their own education systems. But as you've heard so far, we have tremendous cooperation when it comes to education. So in 2022, all 27 EU countries signed a policy commitment to further embed sustainability in all parts of education and training. So this is really a call to action to make learning for sustainability more action oriented, not just cognitive knowledge, but really about taking action. It needs to be locally relevant. It's going to look different depending on the country and context. So how can we make that learning really local and grounded in students' everyday experience? There's a role for every subject in this. Yes, science is crucial, geography is crucial, but we need to bring in lots of different subjects and disciplines to learn about these issues as well. And it's not just about learning in one sector of education. It's really the lifelong journey from early years, which are really crucial foundational years, right through to adult learning as well. So next, please. We can't do this without our teaching professionals. So it's about quality teacher education and supports, getting them the right training they need in the right formats. And it's about empowering, involving our young people to take action. So it's very much linked to citizenship education. And schools and training institutions can't do this alone. They need to be working locally with the local and wider community, whether that's bringing in expertise, partnering with local NGOs as well. So it's really important that we look beyond the walls of the school for that cooperation. Next, please. So I want to mention too our Green Comp framework. So we have a number of competences framework in at EU level, for example, in digital entrepreneurship competences. And in 2022, we released a competence framework in sustainability, so on sustainability competences. So these are the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values which learners need to be able to think, plan, and act for the planet, for people and for planet. And this is proving to be a really popular publication. We've had it, it's the most downloaded publication in our research website, which is fantastic. And we've seen it used in lots of different ways. So we set out those sustainability competences, but this document can be used as a tool to design curricula for teacher education programs as well. So next, please. I'm just giving you a very brief overview today of the Green Comp framework. So we have 4 different areas. We've got acting for sustainability. We have embodying sustainability values, and that futures literacy piece. So imagining sustainable futures, thinking about the impacts of decisions today and how they might affect the future. And then we have systems thinking, embracing complexity in sustainability. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that framework. It's available in 24 languages, and I hope it could be useful to you in your context. So next, please. So I also wanted to mention our Education for Climate Coalition that brings together teachers, students, community educators, researchers, everybody who's active in climate education. And we actually have a dedicated group in there who are looking at Green Comp and how that competences framework is being used in their context. So I'd really encourage the people joining us here today, if you don't know the Climate Coalition, to check it out. So next, please. I also wanted to mention the peer learning, so the way that we connect countries across the EU. So as I mentioned, education systems are designed in different ways, but we have so many shared challenges between EU member states. So we run a working group on learning for sustainability. We have many of our members here today, and that's a fantastic forum to bring countries together to exchange experience. We all are learning about this together, and we're facing so many similar challenges, whether it's how to tackle eco-anxiety in the classroom, how to partner with those community groups, how to assess these sustainability competences. So we get together on a regular basis. We've been lucky to have study visits as well. I've put some photos there from a study visit to Ireland where we learned about school community partnerships. More recently, we were in Slovenia where we learned about outdoors education and the benefits of learning outdoors. So that's a wonderful forum for exchange of experience and knowledge and ideas. So next, please. We put all of the outputs from this working group, they're publicly available. So if you're interested, you might like to look at our key messages. So that's the results of all our meetings, and also the preparatory papers, the input papers that we also developed to prepare for our meetings together. So that's all publicly available, and we'd encourage you to take part and to have a look. We also have a number of research publications and studies. Very shortly, we're just putting the final touches to a report on greening school learning environments. I think that will be of particular interest to our audience today. So again, our research is publicly available, so I hope of interest and relevance to our audience today. So I'm just going to say a few words now on the Erasmus Plus funding programme. You may be familiar with Erasmus Plus. It's our large-scale funding programme for education in the European Union. Green education, education for sustainable development, citizenship are all key areas of the Erasmus Plus programme. So we are financing many, many projects across Europe, also with partners from around the world. We have job shadowing training for teachers. We have, of course, exchanges for students at university, but also exchanges for school students as well. So I'd encourage you to check out the Erasmus programme for financing opportunities as well. So next, please. There are so many exciting and wonderful projects being financed through Erasmus. We've just put a small selection here today on a great project on food at school, the vocational education and training sector as well, doing a project on disinformation, gamification, game-based learning, teaching about sustainable development through cross-curricular approaches as well. So just a small snapshot of the many, many wonderful projects and programs that we have through the Erasmus Plus program. So next, please. We also have our European School Education Platform, again, publicly available and open, and we have many training courses available on this and guest articles, videos as well of good practice. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that as well. And next slide, please. We have our e-twinning community, which is hosted on the European School Education Platform. What is e-twinning? I hope many of you will be aware of it. It's 20 years old now, and e-twinning is how we bring schools and classes together across Europe. We offer a safe space for connecting schools. We have many projects that work on the environment, climate issues. We have many eco-schools that actually connect through our e-twinning platform as well. We have training available for teachers as well. And we're really working with our teachers and our schools on that platform to build key competences that we need, like critical thinking, digital skills, and of course, citizenship. So I'd encourage you to check out e-twinning. So I'm reaching the end of my presentation now. I just wanted to say a few words about our teacher academies. So actually in Brussels today, we've got a meeting which is bringing together our teacher education providers. So many of them working in initial teacher education. And we've had some wonderful projects focus on sustainability. I've shared some links there. So we have many, many resources which have been developed for teacher professional development on sustainability, many of them using the Green Comp framework. So they're open and available for you to use as well. So in my presentation, I've tried to give the policy framing. So that key year was 2022, when the EU member states signed up to move faster and further on learning for sustainability in all parts of education and training system. We back that with this policy cooperation between countries, with research, with data like Sophia shared. And then we have many resources available as well for our education community. So I hope that you'll find something in those list of resources which will be of use and of interest to you in your work. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pramod.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you for that overview. It's a comprehensive work that is being done in Europe. And I like the two words that you used in terms of efforts are basically for empowering and involvement. I think that's the key here when we are looking at sustainability, education, and the emphasis that peer learning and reinvent. And I've been seeing it over the years, that the effort that you make in terms of getting people to share, learn from each other, and meet. And the point that you mentioned about action and impact. Just checking with Olivia, is there a question here for the opening speakers that you would like to highlight?
Thank
And
you.
any of the speakers, please feel free to answer.
Thank you so much to everyone for really insightful presentations. Yes, we have a couple of questions that have come into the chat. The first one is from Yamama in Egypt. She says, in our region, all Arab countries have many international schools with different systems, IB, IGCSE, French Baccalaureate, Abitur, the German system. To effectively integrate the JEP in international education in these schools, it has to be acknowledged by these education systems. Are there talks with these accreditation bodies of these systems yet happening under JEP?
I think it's a question from Egypt, but I think Deirdre, you mentioned it in terms of the work that because Europe is also very diverse with so many systems and other things. Would you like to respond to this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's our reality every day because, of course, it's really not up to the Commission to say how this should be implemented in national systems. But I have to say, there's so many things in common, no matter how the system is designed. I think those challenges are really shared. So whether you're looking at how to support teachers, whether you're looking at how to assess these competences, whether you're looking at digital technologies and how they can help or indeed hinder learning for sustainability. So I'd encourage you to check out our resources like GreenComp. I think they're systems agnostic in a way. I think they can work in any system. So I think there's no one way of doing this, right? And I don't even think there's two schools that are the same. I think you take two schools and the school student body is different, the teaching staff are different. So I think this really needs to be very, very contextualized, which I also think is one of the benefits of the Eco Schools program, because it really takes the schools where they're at in their context. So context for me is a key word.
Thank you. Thank you, Deirdre. We'll come back to some more questions later, Olivia. So from this European context, the UNESCO presentation talking about the sustainability education global level and what's the situation on sustainability education in Europe, let's move to concrete examples of how it is being done at the national level. And also the challenges being encountered in terms of advancing greening education and what strategies or partnerships have been evolved with those four examples that we have from Ireland, France, Malta, and Germany. I will start with Leona Dicos. She's Assistant Principal Officer with Curriculum and Assessment Policy Unit, Department of Education and Youth, and is responsible for overseeing implementation of ESD in primary, post-primary schools in accordance with ESD for 2030, Ireland's second national strategy for ESD. And she has worked for a number of years since 2002 on current role, and she has been in since 2018. And she also coordinates the national level efforts in terms of different things, especially related to the Sustainable Development Goals National Interdepartment Working Group and on the EU Working Group for Schools Learning for Sustainability. And colleagues from European Commission highlighted the work, excellent work, and especially also Julia, being done in Ireland. So looking forward to hear from you, Leona. Screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Pramod, and thanks to the Greening Education Partnership for inviting us to input to the session this morning. I'm hoping you're going to share the slides for me there. Thanks very much. So we can move to the first slide. So as Pramod mentioned, ESD to 2030 is our second national strategy for education for sustainable development in Ireland. It's very closely aligned to the UNESCO roadmap. It has the same 5 priority areas you'll see there. It's been adopted by UNESCO as Ireland's country initiative for ESD. It's co-sponsored by our Department of Children, Equality and Disability and our Department of Further and Higher Education. So it has very much that lifelong learning focus. We have an overarching steering group who oversee implementation of the strategy, made up mainly of other government departments. We have 3 subgroups then, or advisory groups under each department. So we have an advisory group for schools, and there's an advisory group for early learning and care and further and higher education, and that's made up mainly of key stakeholder groups. Our implementation plan runs until the summer of 2026, and we've published our first progress report and our second progress report for our midterm of that implementation plan is due to be published very shortly. So the next slide, please. Thanks. Just in terms of eco schools or green schools, as we call them in Ireland. So they're a very long established programme in Ireland. They've been active for 27 years. You'll see from the stats there that almost 88% of our schools, primary and post-primary, have green flag status. More recently, we have the Green Campus programme for the tertiary level. That's been active since 2007. And 7 of our publicly funded universities are Green Campus awarded sites. We also have some colleges and non-publicly funded universities that are also Green Campus awarded. So next slide, please. Thank you. Just some recent policy or system level measures that we've adopted. So under our first strategy that was published in 2014, ESD was embedded across the curriculum at all levels. And that's been ongoing since, as curricula are redeveloped or redesigned or new curricula. As Pramod mentioned earlier on, from September, we'll have a new standalone subject for Leaving Cert or Senior Cycle, Climate Action and Sustainable Development. And also under our new primary curriculum, we'll have a new area of learning social and environmental education. And these will enhance and be interlinked to existing cross-curricular content. And they've been designed in that way to interlink with what is already there in terms of ESD. We also have a school sector climate action mandate. So under our National Climate Action Plan, all public bodies are expected to lead by example when it comes to sustainability. So in addition to each department, given that schools are very different to government departments, the schools have a separate climate action mandate. To support implementation of that, we've published a sustainability toolkit for schools. And we ask schools to adopt a sustainability policy statement outlining what they're doing in terms of sustainability and what plans they have for the future. And we're currently, over the summer, you see they're mapping sustainability policies in our schools across Ireland, and we'll promote that to other schools. So next slide, please. Just in terms of some challenges and the strategies that we've used to overcome them. So teacher competence, I think internationally, it's not just ourselves in Ireland. I think that's always going to be a challenge, but to try and support that, ESD and Global Citizenship Education, GCE, are now mandatory elements of all our initial teacher education programmes. We promote CPD opportunities for our teachers. Our teachers can seek their own CPD on ESD and then seek a refund of their fees. And we have free summer courses for teachers on ESD related topics and themes. In terms of time pressures, we do find that schools are already doing ESD work and significant ESD work, but they're just not making the link to ESD or the SDGs. And we address that through CPD and training, through awareness raising, through highlighting examples of good practice. And we have a centralised hub as well for all of our ESD resources. In terms of funding, we have only recently managed to acquire a small amount of funding to support our ESD strategy. We do a call out then for organisations for ESD projects in schools, and then to individual schools as well can seek a small amount of funding for ESD related projects. And then in terms of support, it's already been mentioned a number of times there, building those networks and partnerships, communities of practice. And we have one example is the Irish Schools Sustainability Network, is a network of teachers and students in schools across Ireland. So that's me for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leona, and congratulations. I think when we talk about 50% target, and Ireland is already at 88%, and your progress on higher education, I think you're already a torchbearer in terms of how government can support the work on sustainability education and engaging education partnership. And now we've moved from a educational administrator role to a practitioner role of in France. Nathalie Plume works with the Eco School program and youth education program with Terra Gira, member in France, and she leads the national program, both Eco School, Young Reporters, and learning about ecosystem and forests, working in close collaboration with ministries, local authorities, and she has over 20 of experience, child rights, environment, engagement, and other aspects of education for sustainable development. Over to you, Soph. Over to you, Nathalie.
Please unmute yourself.
Nathalie, you need to unmute, please.
No, still unmuted. I just asked you to unmute. bottom left, there's an unmute button. Your screen.
Yes.
Is that okay? So I share my screen. I hope it's working now. So go full screen, then I go to the presentation. And I was just saying, happy to be here. Thank you. And thank you for JEP and European Commission presentation. I've joined Teragir since 10 months, so I do not know well the dispositif, but I think we have to work closer together. So Teragir in France, it's 4 fee programs: Green Key, Blue Flag, Eco Schools, Young Reporter for Environment, and Forest in School. And all these programs are working with different partners. Eco Schools in France is active for 20 years. This year we are celebrating 20th anniversary. We work with the primary and secondary level, and we have on average 700% school flag per year. That's around 1% from schools in France. Not the same results as in Ireland. We have not yet implemented Green Campus in tertiary level. It's not active, but I exchanged with the Ministry of Ecological Transition, and they're quite interested in that dispositif. The French National Education Policy on ESD. We are working with the ministries, and though the Ministry of National Education, but they developed their own E3D, ESD label since 2013, and national framework. So there is quite competition between Eco Schools and E3D label. We are collaborating, but we should cooperate furthermore. They have an official competency framework for ESD across all school levels, training, teaching resources, and action pathways. But actually in France, there is quite a crisis with teachers, and ESD is not at the top of priorities. So E3D label is complementary to Eco Schools label, but we are not fully integrated. And that's quite a challenge for us nowadays. So we have to build synergies between national and international initiatives. I'm meeting UNESCO in July to explore how we can work more together. And in France, we have around 15,000 schools who are E3D labeled. But we have a lot of projects in France on wealth, on sustainability, on equality, gender equality, harassment in school. So it's quite complicated for teachers to make the priority.
Ganske bra. Ja, dette den der, jeg hadde 2 forskjellige i...
So I would say that national operator like Teragir can connect schools project to state framework, but we have, as we are not ministry operator, quite challenges to face to get success. We are working to alignment with E3D labels and partnerships with ministry to get more legitimacy, but we also face funding challenges for ESD projects. Grassroots data collection helps advocate for resources, but yet we have not a system to get data. And at the end, we should have the role to intermediary translating field innovation. I like the idea of schools like a laboratory into public strategies. We can face that even if we teach ESD in curriculum in schools, it's not that easy to go to action. Then I would say that we have a balancing ESD and academic competency. It's quite good in France. We use project-based learning to develop key skills. And then we have action in several disciplines like mathematics, literacy, or language, or any kind of topics. And we try to evaluate both content and process in order to encourage interdisciplinary assessment and recognize sustainability as a lever for educational success. We have not yet measurement impact in France, but we can see that ESD project help kids feel better in school. It's good for the climate between teachers and kids. So we have to go furthermore in how we can illustrate this level for educational success. By the way, eco schools is also a way, and it's for us very important to put the highlight on that for community and whole school engagement. That's it quite more in eco school than in label E3D. As we involve families, NGOs, municipalities in project governance. We want to work more with municipalities. It could be another entry for us to get more and more schools entering in sustainability projects. We use school grounds for ecological restoration, garden biodiversity. It's a lot of projects are aligned with this. And we co-create sustainable school charters with stakeholders and also invite schools both to celebrate achievements, as we do at the end of this year for schools. Partners will visit what is working in the schools and the best eco schools we have in our network. And then I would say that accountability and real world impact, we should focus on implementation, but not just on frameworks. That we can see in France, we have a lot of tools, of resources, of studies, but we should go further on implementation and what means we can bring to help teachers to work with their pupils on ESD. We should more celebrate progress from first step to advanced levels and have, in France, ESD is quite seen as a negative topic, so we should inspire pupils and have more role models. That's what we are beginning to work on with eco schools and YRE, and also mobilize youth as a communicators of impact. I think it's really important to put pupils at the front of the scene because they are really change makers. And also use storytelling and visibility to engage the disconnected. In France, we can see at this moment
Sorry, we can't hear you.
We have around 4,000 because we are with and now we have to go further. Yes?
Okay,
is it too long?
Yes, we need to stop here. Nathalie, thank you for your intervention and sharing the work. I think the important highlight that from what I get is that the need for collaboration. And I strongly believe that we need to work together as different programs because the target is big and the pressure you also highlight and the previous speaker also highlighted upon teacher and their capacity is real and how we work together on that. And we move to the next presentation from Malta. Malta has contributed a lot when we look at ESD and the Greening Education Partnership. Paul Page, our national operator in Malta, in fact, wrote the Greening School Quality Standards on behalf of UNESCO. And then we have almost 76% schools which are part of the Eco School program with 85 schools having a green flag. And Francisco De Bono, the education officer for global education in Malta Ministry of Education, will share the overview of ESD and how it is being dealt there. He leads the national effort for mainstreaming global citizenship education and education for sustainable development across schools. He works closely with education and international partners to embed sustainability, equity, global competence, and curricula and practice. And he also represents Malta in the UNESCO and ASP.NET and the Global Education Network. Over to you, Francisco.
Thank you very much, dear Pramod, and the organization team of this GEP, and for granting us this opportunity to make this contribution about progress in Malta. So, just a bit of outline. The Ministry for Education regards global citizenship education and education for sustainable development as the provision of learning opportunities that allow students to broaden their perspectives intellectually, emotionally, and ethically, as it is in all countries, mainly to comprehend and be able to act on both local and global contexts as outlined in the Agenda 2030. The Ministry for Education adheres to the head, hearts, and hands approach, and all the work that is carried out is supported through the collaboration of several NGOs, like, for example, Nature Trust Fee Malta, BirdLife Malta, and COPIN, that coordinate programs like Eco Schools, Young Reporters for the Environment, One World, and also Start the Change. We must also give credit to other ministries within the government, other directorates, both within our ministry and in other ministries, and also agencies who collaborate with our entity, with our GSED and ESD section, to strengthen our program through initiatives that prepare the community and students for the green transition, to prepare them also for aspects like human and women's rights, climate action, sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, sustainable agriculture, and more. So in collaboration with these entities, the ministry's work in ESD and GSED is aligned to the 5 priority areas of UNESCO ESD for 2030. In fact, during this brief outline, I will be elaborating a bit on how the ministry is working on 3 of these areas. Okay? So let's start with the transformation of learning environments. Like in most part of the globe, ESD is addressed as a cross-curricular theme in a cross-curricular fashion. So the intention is to integrate it into the overall school ethos and culture, and also across all learning areas at all educational levels, in accordance with the National Curriculum Framework of 2012 and the most recent National Education Strategy 24-2030, in which greening, citizenship, and well-being are foundational pillars. So in this regard, the ministry conducts continuous school-based support to mobilize schools in embracing a whole school approach to ESD. This is very, very, very and extremely challenging, all right? The support takes the shape and form of regular sessions with school leaders and educators to help them explore approaches through which ESD and GSED could assist in the evolution of the school ethos, culture, and formal curriculum delivery, okay? Towards the nurture of informed, skilled, and responsible citizens who are keen on contributing towards the green transition and also social transformation. In addition to this, programs, for example, like Eco Schools and One World and Start the Change also contribute to this mission by constantly engaging students in understanding and evaluating not only the school, but also the community surroundings and their operations and plans with an intention of contributing to the overall decision making towards the development of schools and communities that truly motivate renewed behaviors and more sustainable and responsible lifestyles. All this cannot go without continuous educator training and capacity building. All right? So school support visits from our team, constant school support visits from our team, facilitate continuous educator training. So in small groups, we get educators to meet and provide them with training opportunities in the form of peer reflection exercises mainly, where participants understand the importance of facilitating more inclusive, dynamic, and relevant teaching and learning opportunities that motivate a shift towards inclusivity, equity, and ecological and social sustainability. We also have national mandatory training, which is also a very important aspect of our work. So, for example, during these last 2 scholastic years, we managed to train all early years educators. So all early years educators participated in a mandatory training program. And it is worth mentioning as well that until 2028, we will have all the entire spectrum of primary educators who have participated in this training. It is also worth mentioning that the ministry has also and is still investing in the first 2 of what we call GSED training and learning centers. These centers, the intention of these centers is to facilitate additional college-based educator gatherings to strengthen the inter-school peer learning culture towards more effective embedding of ESD and GSED. It is also worth mentioning that bodies like the Faculty for Education and the Institute for Education, who are responsible for initial teacher training in Malta, are delivering courses in which sustainability and citizenship education are being very prominently featured. This brings us to policy, all right? Both the whole school approach and evolved curricular delivery, as in all countries, come with their challenges. We need to appreciate the fact that all schools, first of all, are unique, with their unique circumstances. They are also populated and managed and led by unique leaders and educators. All of these professionals view sustainability education as important, so the intention is very correct, all right? And there is a very strong goodwill. However, we also have to appreciate that the human element in all of these professionals leads to a high degree of subjectivity in implementation. Naturally, this leads to instances of inconsistent and imbalanced or unbalanced entitlement to students when you consider the whole picture on a national level. But the ministry cannot take decisions and actions for the future without the support of a plethora of stakeholders. To this extent, the ministry has now launched a national research exercise to evaluate the state of ESD and GSED in Malta. It is good to mention that this is a multi-stakeholder and cross-sectorial exercise that has till now collected feedback from students and leaders of educational institutions. Now this exercise will progress to collecting data also from educators until the end of this scholastic year. At a later stage, that meaning during the next scholastic year, NGOs, agencies, ministries, and also the general public will be also approached for their contribution. The ultimate aim of this research exercise is to provide information on several aspects, including knowledge, attitudes, skills, and behaviors in students and also the community. It will also account for skills or shortages of skills and other aspects that pose challenges to successful and consistent scholastic embedding across the nation. The study will also, it's good to know that the study will also serve as a common platform where stakeholders can share ideas on the best way forward towards a new standard ESD and GSET curriculum, which to date is still absent. Okay, so a new standard ESD and GSET curriculum and a nationwide standard implementation that allocates an equitable, and we emphasize on this very keenly and strictly, an equitable entitlement to all students across Malta and Gozo. This brings us to an end. Thank you very much. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. We'll be able also to share results of the first part of this national research exercise towards November 2025. Thank you very much, Bram.
Thank you, Francisco. And this is an interesting thing: is evaluation and reflection being part of the national policy,
Yes, it is.
and going forward. And this is an amazing work that you have done on in terms of all early years our teachers being trained on ESD and 100%. I know Malta is a small place, but still having a commitment and resources to do it is wonderful work that you have done. And this now leads to our last but not the least presentation and speaker, Bianca Bilgram. She's the head of education for ESD office at the European Commission for UNESCO. And with a background in English literature and social anthropology, she has led Germany's ESD strategy and policy in terms of whole institution approach, international cooperation. And she represents Germany on the UN ECE Steering Committee on ESD and has played a key role in advancing UNESCO's global ESD agenda. Over to you, Bianca.
Thank you very much, Pramod, and thank you very much also for the Greening Education Platform to give us this opportunity to present, as you asked for, a sort of small practical update, what is happening and what we're doing. I'm just wondering if my slides are being shared.
It's shared, but it's not in the presentation mode, just that part.
Okay.
Slideshow?
No. Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Okay, super. And we can start straight away. I tried to be quick so we have a bit more time for questions. So as some of you might know, we have quite a sort of national implementation process that's been in place since 2015 for the Global Action Program, then UNESCO's Global Action Program on ESD. So it was like a relaunch of our national multi-stakeholder process, which was in place during the decade. And in 2015, it sort of relaunched with the lead of the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, as it was called then. We have a small change of ministries at the moment after the most recent election. But so they are in charge, and we have this, where you can see on that small scheme here, a picture. So you have a national platform in the middle, which is a steering committee of about 35 high-level people joining together from the ministries, from the federal state ministries. Germany is a federal country in the sense that we have 16 federal states that are in charge for formal education, and also from academia, from business industry, NGOs, of course. So there's a selected few that come together for the national platform, and this whole circle or sort of implementation process is then enlarged by expert forums, which then specifically address certain education areas. As you can see here, they also work interlinked. Now, for example, there was a lot of talk about teacher education. Of course, we in Germany see the same demand for teacher education or educator education across all the education areas, be it from early childhood education to schools to higher education to TVET, etc. Non-formal education not to be excluded. So you can see they work together. So, for example, the expert forum on schools and expert forum on higher education work together to promote and find guidelines and measures to promote ESD in teacher education. So that's just one example how these work together, but also work independently on their particular issues. There's a partner forum which enlarges it even further, which is a very informal way of interacting with lots of stakeholders on the ground and ESD actors who participate in that whole process. So 2017, we this group that you can see there, which I think is around 600 to 1,000 people, depending on who you exactly incorporate into the numbers. It's came up with the National Action Plan. plan. So 2017, okay, that's already quite a long time ago, but it's still very relevant for now. It had the Agenda 2030 obviously already in mind. And of course, ESD for 2030 as the new program was not there yet, but we already were working along these topics that became relevant. So 130 goals, 349 specific recommendation and action areas. So there's still quite a lot of work to do. And if you want to find out more about how this implementation process is going, at the moment, you can also find out through the National Joint Monitoring on ESD, which has also been part of the process since 2015 by the Free University of Berlin. And I have made a link here to their website where they have quite a few publications in English on like the whole institution approach, for example, or higher education or school education, etc., where we stand and where we are. Now, some other examples of what we're doing as part of this really immense national implementation process is, for example, that policy and position papers are being developed. So, for example, a recommendation on ESD as a compass in the digital transformation of our society, which I think is a very timely document. And out of that, for example, came guidelines and quality criteria for digital ESD teaching materials. So something quite practical for all practitioners also to address to when they say, oh, yes, we want to adopt and make our teaching materials to this adherence to this quality criteria. We also hand out awards. Many people might have heard about this. And since 2022, we also have the National ESD Prize with also a prize money of 10,000 euros each, which is then used for transfer activities. And again, there's a small publication where you can read more about all these measures and projects that we're implementing. Now, what have been recent policies or system level managed to be adopted in the recent time? As one example, and I think for us, it was very much the adoption of the new German sustainability strategy with an update in January 2025, which now includes an indicator for ESD. Now, as I mentioned, it was developed jointly by the Federal Ministry of Education and the Standing Conference of the Ministers of Education and Cultural Affairs of the Länder, the 16 Länder that I've mentioned, because it's in their responsibility to address formal education, as mentioned. So this was really, as you will see now, this was a long-term project since ESD obviously was in this national strategy for sustainable development. And there was also a gap. There was just a gap. There was no indicator because, as you can imagine, it takes quite some persuasion for a Federal Statistical Office of Germany to be convinced that ESD can be measured in a way or form. And you can probably see the challenge right there. That obviously is also the community that was really discussing, you know, is it non-formal education? Is it formal education? Is it higher education? What should we actually measure? What can we measure? Where do we get valid numbers, etc.? So there was actually quite a comprehensive preliminary scientific work that started in 2017 for 3 years. These universities collaborated on trying to find an indicator. And in the end, an indicator that came to be was measuring the proportion of schools nationwide that have been awarded a relevant label for ESD commitment to ESD. Now, that obviously took quite a long process of finding the right criteria, what was in the criteria for such a label. There's labels at federal level, there's label at national level, etc. So what can we use? So in the end, 27 nationwide ESD labels were selected, also from the federal states. I'm happy to inform that also, of course, the eco schools are right among them and are one of these labels that are being encountered now for this new indicator. And we have also results of the first survey from the 23 to 24 school year. And we now know that more than 1 in 10 schools nationwide have such a label. Which we're quite pleased about, but of course there's still a lot of potential to go further. So recent policy has in that sense a real impact that we're already seeing. Of course, we can't measure it yet because it's only the first time we had the study. But we already see that this causes quite a motivation to establish ESD as a guiding concept for school development. It's also a driving force, we find, more for the quality development of ESD in schools. And it's strengthening the whole institutions and school approaches because, of course, they're part of these labels in general as well. So, yeah, so this has been a major development over the recent years. We will watch this space and see where we go, but that's just giving you a small insight. Now, we've been asked about the new project. So I think one priority action planned for the next year is definitely that we are working very much on a position paper and measures and activities on ESD and social cohesion. I think we all see, particularly in our region, the inner region, that there is a lack of social cohesion and very worrying developments there. So we see there's quite an important role that ESD can play there. So we want to deep dive into that, see what a working group can come up with for a position paper, but also what all the expert forums can contribute to it. And also we would like to pick up from the Berlin Declaration in 2021 and see if we can maybe plan a small international ESD event for the inner region next year. So we'll see. It will probably address ESD for 2030 and the JEP alike. So yeah, I think that's what we are working on at the moment, and I leave it with that to give people
Thank you.
time. Thank you, Pramod.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you very much. And it's interesting, this integrative indicator, bringing all the indicators together into something which then is easy to measure and making it as collaborative as possible by mapping all the initiatives together. And thank you for that. Looking at the time, I would like to now invite Dr. Nikos Petru for the final closing remarks. He's a practicing dentist, but with passion in environment education and environment in general. And he has been the president of HSPN, a member in Greece, and has been our board members for last over 10 years. And now in end of May has been elected as the president of the Foundation for Environmental Education. Over to you, Nikos, for your final words.
Thank you, Pramod. As you mentioned, I'm here in two roles today. First and foremost, I would like to thank our dear partners at the EU Commission for organizing with us today's event, and particularly Deirdre, Sophia, and Monica, along with our other esteemed presenters, Julia Heiss, Leona de Course, Nathalie Klum, Francesco de Bono, and Bianca Begram. Your contributions have been truly motivating, highlighting some of the challenges that we face, as well as the role of education for climate readiness and climate resiliency as we strive towards the ambitious goals of the green transition and the greening education partnership. If I may say a few words about Greece, HSPN, as a national operator of all these educational programs, is committed to supporting our Ministry of Education to achieve the GEPS targets through Eco Schools and the Young Reporters for the Environment programs. And our strategy has been to break it down into manageable local commitments. So we work at the local administration level by engaging them with a memoranda of cooperation. We started about almost 2 years ago with the municipality of Athens, which is the largest in the country. And since then, we've signed agreements of cooperation with a couple more municipalities, and most recently, just 2 weeks ago, with the region of Crete, so that we can promote the goals of the JEP. And in this context, we've also engaged locally educators to act as our ambassadors in each of the 13 regions of the country. And I must say that with this approach, we've increased our numbers. We are now up to 803 schools, which is not a huge number, but it represents an increase of over 40% since last year. And we now reach about 160,000 students and almost 8,000 teachers throughout the country. And should also like to mention that since Julia mentioned monitoring, we've decided to try to assess our results, and we've in the process of a study for the impact regarding behavioral change with both quantitative and qualitative evaluation. And we've already sent out over 3,000 questionnaires, so we'd be very excited to see what the results will be, and of course we'll share with all. And then if I can speak now as president of FEE, I can proudly say that our programs have been pioneering ESD for over 30 years, starting from just a few countries in Europe. And I must say that Greece was part of those original countries that started both eco schools and young reporters from the environment, to our current presence in more than 100 countries globally. Our network has developed the expertise, the tools, and the reach that is needed to make long-lasting transformative impacts on the education systems worldwide. As far as results, the UK countries of Wales and Northern Ireland have already achieved the green flag in over 50% of their schools. England and Scotland and the Republic of Ireland have over 50% registration with eco schools, as Malta, Mauritius, and the US Virgin Islands. And we're pleased, honored to play a leading role in the GEP as a member of the advisory group, as co-lead of Pillar 1, as coordinator of the Higher Education Working Group, and a key contributor to Pillar 4 through the YRE program. And our team is fully mobilized and behind the partnership's goal. This year, we're very proud to be launching a suite of aligned resources, including new handbooks and training materials to help schools from the early years to vocational schools, and updated courses in FEE Academy, which are available to all for free. We're introducing a new theme at Eco Schools, climate resilience and school safety, which has been mentioned already by some of the previous speakers. And also, we're launching a new IT platform, which is designed to support and improve centralized management of schools as the numbers increase, and they're trying to achieve the green flag. In closing, it was mentioned before, Monica mentioned partnerships, and we look forward to strengthening the existing partnerships and building new ones all across the globe, so that we can work together to turn our shared vision of greening education into a reality, both in Europe and all over the globe. Thank you, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Nikos, and thank you to all the speakers, participants for this 90-minute session. And looking forward to more collaboration. And feel free to reach the speakers and the FEE head office team for any support resources that you need. Deirdre and Sophia shared a lot of resources that have been published by European Commission and the experience of the 4 countries. Thank you, and have a nice afternoon and evening or night wherever you are, because we have seen participants from all over the world.